We can just keep chatting, that's fine.
The moment of truth. Here we go.
Let's see if it works. I will go to YouTube.
I've got YouTube open on my computer as well.
Oh, good. Okay.
So I'll tell you if it happens.
Oh,
there we go. It's happening.
I'm going to turn sound down on mine so I can see any questions. Okay, so there is a short delay, remember. So my head's really going, yeah, my head's kind of going to go up and down as I'm checking to see if there's anything on there. We've got a couple of people saying hello. So those of you that are joining us at the moment, we have about a 10 to 15 second delay. If you're asking a question, we'll try and relay that as quickly as possible. So hello everyone. I can see we've got Mr. Sophia and he said it's working on his end. Can everyone else say hello and we'll just test that everyone can hear you?
Hello everybody.
G'day.
Howdy, howdy, how are we doing?
Hi everyone.
So those of you listening, can you just give us a thumbs up or a yes if you could hear all of our participants tonight? Oh good, we've got some people from Victoria here, some people from New South Wales, and we've got our favourite, Kylie's on, Graham's on. Graham from Sydney. Yes, because I often thought he was from Melbourne. I don't know why. I kept assuming he was from Melbourne. And we're hearing now that everyone can hear us fine. Yay! Okay, so at the moment, everyone can see me though. So I may need to switch to different views there so everyone can say hello. So what I will do though is I'm going to I'll switch back so people can see me and I'll say thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to do a little bit of an introduction as we get started and let everyone have time to come online. And feel free to share this out using the YouTube link in case there's anyone that you think would like to jump on. And I'd like to thank all of our lovely participants who are like me and have nothing better to do on a Thursday night than chat with random strangers. So what I'll do is I'll go over to each person who's here and just ask them to sort of introduce themselves and they can let you know where they're from, what they do, and we'll just go around and hopefully by then we've got enough people online to get the chat going. So I think I've clicked on Aaron, I think. So I'm hoping that is the case. So Aaron, say hi to everyone.
Hello everybody, my name is Aaron. I am from New South Wales, Central Coast, and I am an assistant principal. I'm currently teaching stage 2, so year 3 and 4 this year. And I work in a bit of an interesting situation. So we team teach in a shared learning space. So we have 90 kids in our classroom and 3 teachers working together. So it's a fun experience every single day. And now doing that remotely is even more interesting.
EJ, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, I'm EJ Kipples. I live on the mid-north coast of New South Wales. I'm a high school English teacher. I second charge in my faculty and I've had a lot of experience with learning difficulties and helping students in that way. I've also got a YouTube channel and Instagram where I try to depend on what I'm talking about. Have I got an echo in my end?
I think we've got an echo, so I think if you're not talking, this might be tricky, but if you're not talking, can you mute? And we'll see if that gets rid of it. So I'll throw over to Stephen and the rest of you just mute for a second while Stephen chats.
Let's see if it works. People, Stephen Colburn. Similar to Beck and EJ, I've got a YouTube channel. It's mostly me talking to my kids. So I think I've just hit 450 videos. So I do it probably more than I should. Flags behind me, I run an organisation called Teachers Across Borders Australia. We take Australians from Australia, teachers to Cambodia, train their teachers there. And at school, I'm a literacy improvement teacher, which is just like a middle leader, somewhere between a teacher and a principal. And just finished a hearty and wholesome day of remote learning. So what's better than a couple of online meetings followed by another online meeting at 8 o'clock, am I right? And that's me.
And somewhere between teacher and principal is also called a rock and a hard place quite often. Right. I'll throw over to John now, so John can introduce himself.
Hi, I'm John. I'm a learning specialist from the Marnebek School down in Cranbourne Way. And yeah, I'm currently across all middle years.
I'm just remembering I have to unmute myself when I talk. So keeping that in mind. So I thought we'd get started with some positives today. So considering the current situation that we're all in is pretty meh, I think that's the definition of meh at the moment, is COVID-19 and what we're doing, is just focusing on some silver lining moments that we've discovered since indulging in all of this. So I'll go first. My biggest one at the moment, which I'm really excited about and it feels really stupid, is the price of petrol. Price of petrol being as low as it was when I was 17 or 18. I remember when petrol hit $1 and I was at university. So it feels like a lifetime ago now, but that's a positive. Even though I can't go anywhere, I feel excited that's affordable. A big positive personally for me is extra time with my kids. So today, even though I did do work today, I got to go for a walk with the kids. It's been a goal to get them to ride on their own without training wheels, and they can now do that because we had the extra time to do that, and being out in the fresh air and all sorts of wonderful parental time has been great. Big positive for me, silver lining moment, is the moment we got devices out to all of our families in schools, which is a big thing for us, having technology in those homes. So whether or not they're engaging fully in our online platform or whether or not they're actually struggling to have it, what I do know now is they have technology in their home that they can use, and moving forward into the future, hopefully that will continue into some awesome version of flipped learning is kind of what I'm hoping for. I'm going to go back to EJ for this one. EJ, what's some silver lining moments for you?
Well, similar to you, Beck, I've really enjoyed my family time and just a really slow pace of living, a slower pace of living I'm really loving, and doing hobbies and things that I haven't done in ages, like going back in the garden and reading books and stuff like that. I've really, really loved. Education-wise, I think just stripping everything back to what we're really all about and just trying to deliver that in a way that's meaningful as much as we can online has been really interesting, and connecting with kids in a different way on a different platform has been also very interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves over time when we go back to school next week for us in New South Wales.
Awesome. Let's go to John. How about you, John? What are some of your awesome silver lining positive moments to come out of this so far?
Well, personally, I think it's been just great being able to spend more time with my family. That's always a big thing. Being in a leadership sort of role, you do kind of lose some of that sort of time that you get to spend with them. In an education setting, I think it's been fantastic being able to interact with a lot of the parents in our school community and being able to help have that interactivity through helping work on student learning. That's been a real big focus, and just spending more time being able to do that with families has been fantastic.
Isn't it cool? Because we always focus on, we say family is the focus, but this time we've actually been able to dedicate time to that. Let's go to Aaron.
Yeah, I am just going to back up what everybody said and say family time. We took my 5-year-old for a walk to the beach, along the beach, and we got a coffee and a milkshake as we walked back home. So just having time to do that, getting into some creative things has been fun. Last week I did a little cubby house makeover, which I don't normally have time to do stuff like that. So that was fun to, I guess, do some creative projects that I don't normally get to have time to do. And I think, like EJ said, the chance to really look at my teaching and I guess our teaching and what we do as a school and boil it down to what really matters and what's really essential and what's really the most important, as well as seeing, our staff really collaborate and take on things that they probably never take on under normal circumstances. So I think there's a lot of positives that have come out of this situation. I just hope that we continue that when all of this is over. We kind of go back to normal, whatever that is. I hope that we're better off as people, but as teachers as well, with a whole lot of new set of tools that we can use that we might not have had pre-COVID-19.
I think we definitely need to stick with the normal, using our using our inverted commas there. Stephen, what about you?
I think for me, mostly they're educational at the moment, just because I'm in the thick of it, I guess. So apologies to those people on holidays who aren't. But yeah, all the teachers, like for about 5 years, I've been banging on about, maybe you should turn that PowerPoint into a video so your kids, maybe they won't have to you won't have to stand there and do it every year the same way. And teachers have always been like, yeah, they'll download the program, they'll give it a go. And then now all the teachers are just doing it, and like it's not even the case that they come and see me. They're just like, they've heard me talk about it so often that they're like, yeah, okay, we're doing that thing that he said. And it's been so long that they've forgotten that I even, originally introduced them to it or anything. In terms of me personally, like just time to read and write and think, a lot less time in the car, a lot less time rushing in between classes, getting to see, meet kids' pets and, have them. I had a kid yelling at his lizard to stop licking his computer today. Wouldn't have expected he was the type of kid to have a massive lizard sitting under his computer. Yeah, and as well, just like for staff, like, we have our regular lunchtime meetings, but we do them via our video conferencing thing, and we all sit there and have our normal whinge about things, and it just feels like same as normal, but slightly different. So all positives really for me.
Same but different. I can relate to the have been doing this for a while now, and then people going, oh, that thing that you do, that when I was using flipped learning with my year 2 class, and oh, that's what you were doing when you made videos and we were sharing them on YouTube. Yeah, I was engaging in a pedagogy. Yeah, that's kind of what it was, and now we're all going to do it. Let's go. That's definitely a positive for me. So moving forward into next term, so we know Victoria, you guys have been back for a week and a bit now. I'm not sure if you guys had any staff development days at the beginning of the term. Did you guys have any?
Oh, we had heaps. Yeah, like we had 4 days before the end of term, and then 1 day when we came back from term. So I think 5 total, John, or am I off?
We had one on the last day of our term at our school, and then we had one on the first day of terms. So, but beforehand, we're even just doing some minor preparation for the possibility that this would actually happen.
And my understanding is you guys have been told that you're expected to do remote learning for the entire term. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. So you're hopeful. You're a little bit. There's part of me that says no, I would like to get back to normal, and then there's part of me that kind of says, no, let's do this awesome thing. Let's prove how amazing we are. But then say that out loud. So for us, New South Wales, only a couple of days ago, and even still today, we're receiving information about how this looks for us. We know that the first 2 weeks of learning, the expectation is that it's remote learning. And then with schools open for essential workers, children of essential workers. And then from week 3 onwards, we are meant to go into the next phase. So those of you who haven't seen it, there is a very colourful document. It's available on the DOE website under the COVID banner. And it has all the phases on there, starting with phase 0. And we're currently in phase 0. And then week 3 should be phase 1, where students start coming back to school 1 day a week. And those phases will continue, but there's no set timeline for how we move into each phase, and different schools could move into different phases at different times. So for my school context, compared to like EJ's in secondary with many more students, my school could possibly move through those phases faster than what her school will be able to move through those. So that's not a dedicated thing. And the one thing I love about this is that it's down to school choice. You get to do this in the way that works for your school context. So I met with my executive today. We discussed a number of different things. We're all following Twitter, where principals are sharing some of the context and different suggestions that they've got. For me, I know my automatic reaction for secondary was like, yes, let's get year 7 and year 12 back in, because they're the higher risk ones, first year of high school, last year of high school, get them done, get those prac kids in. But again, school context may not apply. If you've got, year 12 students where a lot of their teachers are in the high risk category, they're not going to be at school to be able to run those pracs. And you don't just want to chuck sort of any casual teacher onto those classrooms where it's WHS involved, there's very explicit content involved, that sort of a thing as well. So EJ, I don't know if you guys have spoken yet about what that will actually look like for you. But I mean, I'm assuming that it's a positive for you guys as well in secondary that this is down to school choice.
It is a positive, I think, Beck, yeah, and we haven't had a chance to talk yet. But I work in a very low socioeconomic area as well, and I think another consideration is the fact that a lot of these students are not necessarily going to come back staggered. They're just going to come back to school because school is their constant and school is their security, and I really feel like we're just going to get swamped with kids starting day one. That's my prediction anyway.
Oh, wow. So even though we're saying only open for essential services, you're thinking those kids are going to come back because that's their safety point.
Yeah.
Okay. So Stephen then and John, because you both have experience with secondary, have you had that happen in Victoria where those kids that you didn't predict would want to come on site have tried coming on site?
You go.
Yeah, we've had quite a few students come in regards to how many students we kind of, well, I wouldn't say how many, but what sort of students we did allow in. We looked at their essential, we looked at the essential services, and then we also looked at the students that were most at risk. So we looked at students that might have been out of home care and some of the ones that we felt that were that really needed that extra support, and we offered it up to the parents. And we still do allow parents that if they do feel like they do need to send their child in to school because they've got no one to care for them, or they need to go back to work and they've got no support structures in place, then we will look at that as a leadership group, and we'll make the decision there.
Right. For us, our school never shut, despite what the media may have portrayed it as. As of our return to term 2, basically a communication went out that said the directive for us was if you can learn from home, you must learn from home. So we were expecting to have vulnerable students and students at risk at school, but my understanding, and I might be out of date, is that we didn't have anyone take us up on that. We're sort of an inner city average SES school, so we're about standard for an inner city school, and so we haven't had any students arrive at school for that support. We see that as a good thing, but open to discussion, I guess, on whether that's a good thing or not. Probably just site specific.
And I think the key factor there is to that word vulnerable to and high risk can mean a lot of things for our students. Kids in those homes where we know domestic violence is a factor, students with additional needs, any of those kids where maybe they're being cared for, like you said, out of home care as well, or if they're normally in the care of a certain relative. We know a lot of our families, like, they might be at home with mum and dad, but they're actually with auntie and uncle most of the time who would care for them, even though it's not a legal guardianship. We know that's what happens, just for whatever support that family needs. A lot of those families that normally rely on us for food was a big factor for me. We have breakfast club and we have lunches and things like that. So a big concern for us was that these kids were going to go unfed for a long time. And we know what a horrible experience that is for a child on a daily basis, let alone in a situation like this. So moving forward then, I guess our biggest thing that we're looking at is, how does this work in our school context? How do we organise things like our timetables? How do we organise our staff? Because we've got staff that are high risk as well. I do have someone on my teams that will need to be at home until the situation is much more safer for them. Had my hubby come up to the camera and pull faces. Thanks for that, hubby. And how do we do it in a way that's the best we could possibly do? And I think that's the big factor we all need to take back to our schools. Everyone listening, everyone participating, everyone sharing this with anyone else. We can only do the best we could possibly do. Nothing's going to be perfect. Don't aim for it. It's like the teacher to-do list. It's never going to get done. Don't try. Don't aim for perfection on this. We can't aim for perfect explicit teaching. It's not going to look like what we have in a classroom. We can't role model the same timetables we would have. I've seen questions about RFF. Do we get our RFF? and that misunderstanding about how RFF works and how we can take that in our own context and apply that in. Those things are really confusing. And I think the biggest thing that you can do is really be open with your school and communicate, like know exactly who to talk to. So I'm going to flip to Aaron and just ask Aaron, in terms of your context, I guess, what's the first thing for you guys in understanding what you need to focus on? Is it the teacher timetable? Is it figuring out what the community, are you going to survey what the community would prefer, or are you just going to decide what works the best for you guys, do you think?
I think it'll be a big, I guess, talk fest and brainstorming to try and come up with a model that is going to work for everybody, like, you know, parents, staff, students, because there is, like you said, there's no perfect, I guess, way to work this out. You know, no matter what formula or how we set it up, there are still going to be things that we have to, you know, I think this is really about working with all of the stakeholders, you know, and having everybody involved in the conversation to try and figure out something that is going to suit most, but also being flexible. And like you said, Beck, understanding that there is no right or wrong way to do it, and every school is different, and that is okay. If one school is doing something and your school's doing something different, that's fine, because this is all about doing what's going to work best for you and your community. So I think our first step really is having conversations and getting feedback and talking about what are our possible options that we can do, and trying to come up with something that works, you know, in the most perfect way possible, even though there is no perfect formula to work it out. But I think it'll start with a lot of just talking and collaborating and getting feedback from people and tossing up ideas. And like we always do, putting on the black hat and going, okay, that idea sounds good, but let's actually try and figure out what are all the problems that could happen with this, and how do we go about solving them? How do we come up with solutions for the problems before they happen? Because I think that's the biggest way to get through navigating this tricky thing, is trying to preempt what can go wrong and being solutions focused, because there is not going to be a perfect model that suits everybody. And, you know, figuring it out as we go, and, you know, sometimes even not having a clear plan is sometimes a good plan, because it means that you can meet people's needs as they come up. So yeah, we will start with, I think, conversation.
I like that. Collaboration and making sure that flexibility is the key, and that's a big thing. I want to make sure that we all communicate is that anything could change any day for whatever reason. You know, if all of a sudden we have a week straight of 0 new cases, I imagine restrictions will start getting eased, and we're starting to see them in different places. So I think, EJ, up your way, beach restrictions are different to what they are in Sydney. Is that right?
Yeah, we don't have beach restrictions.
No beach restrictions. Oh.
Technically, you're not supposed to sunbake and stuff like that, but people are doing it. We don't have police policing the beaches, so.
Meanwhile, we've got Mr. Bondi getting arrested down here.
But people are behaving themselves. People are being really responsible, so it's nice.
Okay, it's nice for your well-being that you can go to the beach and still enjoy that. I think we've got the benefit, and John, I can't remember if you've got kids or not. I know EJ does. I know Aaron does. Stephen and John, I'm not sure if you guys have got kids or not.
Yeah, I've got 2.
You've got 2, Stephen? Oh, Stephen just dropped out. He's got no kids. Okay, I don't know. He just left the chat. He'll come back in, guys. I'm sure he will. I think that was his internet that just dropped out. Okay. We've got the benefit of wearing the parent hat at the same time. So on those days I was working from home, my kids were trying to work on Google Classroom, and we had those moments where it was like, I don't know what we're doing. And I'm the person training the teachers at my school in Google Classroom, and I was getting lost. And it had nothing to do with, a bad teacher or anything like that. It's just how I see Google Classroom is different to how other teachers see Google Classroom. Stephen's coming back in now. Back, Stephen.
Just didn't want to answer the question. No kids for me. Just my wife and I and 2 cats here. So we're...
The cats are enough. They're not remote learning, luckily.
Two cats counts, guys.
Fur babies.
Respect. Yeah, I appreciate it.
We're just talking about the benefit we have of having the parent hat, especially if we're working from home. So I know EJ's kids are older than mine, and Aaron has some that are younger than mine as well. So Aaron, I think your littlest is kindy this year.
Yeah, that's so our oldest is kindy.
Oldest is kindy, sorry.
Youngest is nearly 1.
Oh God.
Yeah,
So,
my wife is trying to study, teach, do learning from home, and look after our 11-month-old. So I know she has moments where she pulls her hair out, and I think I get to go to work today.
the escape for a little while. So
yeah.
Big consensus out there is kindy has got to have it the hardest because they don't have the independent skills to log onto Google Classroom, to submit work, to even do the work online. Plus, we really need them doing all of those fine motor activities, and they need the explicitness. So, I mean, have you let the teacher hat go and let her learn the way the other kids are learning, or are you putting that teacher hat on and doing that with her?
Good question. No, so we are basically just doing what the school has set. So her school do Google Classroom, and we obviously access it for her through her student portal. But they basically give us a Google slide for the week, and there's about 70 slides, but that's from Monday to Friday, and there's sort of certain slides for the day. So we're just sticking to that. I mean, we are probably doing a little bit more with a little bit of guided reading in there because we've got the benefit of my wife as well being a primary school teacher, and that is, I think, the hardest thing because like you said, Beck, those kindergarten kids who, that the importance of reading every day and doing all of that explicit teaching and then missing that is huge. But then the challenge is how do you do that remotely? So I think for her in particular and all kindergarten kids, the sooner that we can start to get them back to school, the better, because there's a lot that they're missing out on while we're learning from home. I know the teachers are doing the best that they can, but there's so many skills that, like you said, kindergarten kids just don't have, and it's hard to teach those via a Google slide.
And I know I've seen that being part of the discussion as well when people are saying, year 7 might be priority over year 12 because year 12 are adults. They're independent. They should be able to do it. They're also adults that can go, bye, I'm not doing this now. See you later. So that's got to be the hardest thing to get through. EJ, did you find that most of your kids were engaging and participating, and even Stephen after EJ?
My year 12s, yes, definitely. They're very committed. They're very worried. Concerned, so they're pretty motivated, so they're pretty good. And my year 11's also really good. 8s, 9s and 10s is a very different story. I think they just thought this was an extended holiday and didn't do much. But yeah, we will see how that goes early next term. But I hear what you're saying about the teacher parent hat, because my son has learning difficulties and it's just been very, very difficult for me to switch between teacher and mum, and especially because their school is using Microsoft Teams, which I wasn't very familiar with. I'm starting to become familiar with it now, and my school uses Google Classroom, so there was that as well happening. So yeah, bit of a juggle. But
yeah, definitely.
The others are not committed.
And the other thing is when you are the parent and you try to put the teacher hat on, and then the tantrum you get and the meltdown you get of I'm not reading the book with you. I have had books thrown at me and thrown on the floor, and we just go, okay, we're going to stop learning right now. Take a break.
How about you, Stephen? Are your older adult age students engaging online?
Let me think. So I've got a class of 8, 10, and year 11, and they're all like pretty much same attendance as always. They all turn up. If the question was how much work are they doing, I mean, that would be a more long and convoluted conversation, I guess. But they all turn up and they check in and they say hello, and it's pretty hard to sort of balance the fact that you almost just want them to be, busy and active rather than, meeting all the deadlines and doing all those things. But yeah, I've had pretty much 100% or close to participation, same as normal.
And I think if we bring it back again to the bare basic of we're in kind of crisis mode, that's a really good thing, because in terms of welfare, well-being, to know that they're okay, they're there, they're saying hello, and they're willingly logging on, that's a good thing. And I guess it's a good sign that they obviously like what you're sharing with them, that they're willing to come on and at least start the day with you. So that's a beneficial thing. And I guess you have the benefit of, well, as this is not necessarily a new pedagogy for you and they're used to that. So it may not be such a huge shift in how they see you, because that's not brand new. Whereas I know for some of our kids, it's so super exciting for them to see their teacher on the screen. So we've been using our school Facebook page to share as much as possible, and sharing just messages from teachers and what's going on in the school and things they might be missing out on. And we've had a question in the chat as well about, are our kids using the same platforms? And one of the things that we really we're all in line with at my school was, we need to use a singular platform, because otherwise we can't have parents with 3 kids at the school trying 3 different platforms. So we tried using email. We found a lot of emails bounced back, and I've seen some posts saying that Department of Education have had Gmail accounts bounce back. So I've lodged some inquiries into IT to see if that's been fixed. And obviously some emails may just get entered wrong, and they could be totally fake as well. So we've used email, we've used the Facebook page, and we've had a lot more engagement on Facebook, and phone calls, So we allocated before the end of term a specific day for teachers to call every single kid. And if they couldn't get onto that child, we would then get our community liaison officer onto it. And then we'd get our community languages teacher onto it, and then supervisors and everything, all just trying to make sure that every single kid had a tick against their name that we could call and say, yep, you guys are okay. So I'm going to throw to John, and I'm going to ask all of you guys, what are the different platforms and forms of communication that you're using, and have any just been complete failures or best ones? So John?
Yep. Well, our students use Seesaw as the main form of communication in regards to delivery of student work, and being able to comment on student progress, and even just comment with parents if they've got any concerns or questions about tasks. We do use Compass for a lot of our communication to parents directly, and phone calls. Phone calls have been the big driving form of communication, because with our families, we make sure that we been focusing on parent and student wellbeing, because it is a big change, especially in our setting where a lot of students have been spending the majority of their time at home to do work. It's been a real big check-in to see how the students are progressing, because any sort of change like this can have a big impact on their social wellbeing. And also just seeing how the parents are going, and offering parents some advice and tips of what we do in the classroom has been real big for some of these parents, just to help alleviate the stress of being able to help students learn at home. So that's something that we've been really focusing on, and the parents have been loving it. The feedback that we've been getting is that they've been liked having that call, whether it be daily or twice a week or 3 times a week, depending on we let it depending on how much the parents would like us to communicate with them, because we don't want to bombard them with so much. But in saying that, we want to make sure that they're going okay in this, and that if we do need to provide them extra support, how can we provide that to them? And we found that with some emails, especially for our EAL parents that don't quite understand our language, that's been helping trying to break that barrier down a bit.
How about you, Stephen? What platforms are you guys using?
Basically, the model we use is we've got three tools. So we have our LMS, which is our compass, where you put mark the role, tell the kids what they're doing, tell them where to download things. We make videos using online broadcast software, which is a real simple program that you can make videos and record your screen and all those sort of things. And then we use Microsoft Teams as like our video conference system. And so those are all things that we've always used. We didn't change anything. We basically just said, okay, well, those things we've been talking about for the last couple of years, we're going to use those now. And so there wasn't really a massively steep learning curve. There were tools everyone was familiar with. And it just means that, if you're a worksheet teacher, then you're using the LMS. And if you're like me or a couple of other staff at my school, you're making videos. And if you're kind of confident doing what we're doing now, doing a video conference, then that's what you do, and you run your class live. So it's sort of everyone's been able to basically do what they've always done, just in a new different form.
That's good. EJ, so you mentioned your school is using Google. Are they using other methods of communication or ways to get in contact with those kids that maybe aren't actually engaging on Google Classroom?
We had a really interesting situation arise where we were actually asked, classroom teachers were asked to stop calling home.
What?
Yeah, I think we all got really excited and really wanted to make sure that everyone was okay. And so some families were just bombarded with several phone calls a day about the same students. So yeah, the wellbeing team said, let's just allow the year advisors to make the phone call, and we just log everything on Central, our concerns and all that sort of stuff. So that was an interesting, weird, unexpected thing to happen, which just tells me that teachers really care. It's really nice. But yeah, Google Classroom and the English faculty, we were using that. We've been using that for years, so it was a really easy, not even a transition. It was just, a sort of slide along to a remote situation. And a lot of the other faculties at school are using it too. I love it. It's great. It's really easy to use. Very user-friendly.
That's good. It's a nice solid reminder as well about how many people are looking out for our secondary kids, because there's that perception that, when they're in primary, they've got this one person that really cares about them and they're with them all day. And when they go to high school, they're stuck with 40 different teachers and they're just a number. So, that's really evidence that that's not the case. They actually have people that are very dedicated to making sure that they're doing okay and caring for each and every one of them, even though it's a larger setting. Aaron, I don't think I've heard yours yet, what your school's using.
Yeah, so we're using Google Classroom, and the same as what Stephen and EJ said, we sort of have already been using that, particularly in year 3 to 6 already. So for us, it was, not really a new thing. We tried to sort of stick with what we were already doing rather than changing something new, but we have gone Google Classroom K to 6. So there's been a bit of a steep learning curve, mainly for the parents of kindergarten, year 1 and year 2, to figure out how this works. And that's, I guess, kind of been part of my role, is helping our staff set it up in a way that's easy and manageable and easy for parents to follow, and we'll continue to tweak that and work on that. We are using the Department of Education's Zoom set up for check-ins with our kids. So I do a check-in with my students every day for 30 minutes. It's not compulsory. It's just if kids want to come on and ask questions about the content or what we're doing, as well as just a chance for them even to see their friends, because I think that's one thing that a lot of parents have commented to me, is the isolation is actually getting to the students. So we set that up as more from a well-being thing of them being able to just talk to their friends in an informal way, as well as chat to me and ask questions if they were unsure about things. So that's sort of what we're doing, and we'll continue to tweak it and set it up in a way that's a bit more consistent K to 6 this term. But yeah, we tried to avoid using something different. We're using Class Dojo as well to communicate, because that's a system we've already got in our school, and phone calls. So kids that aren't engaging in regards to online content, or kids that are working solely on like paper activity books, we have like a tracking sheet where we will be implementing that to be contacting parents and having a record of, so people go, I didn't get a call. We can go, well, we actually did, but you didn't answer, or things like that. So we are, being accountable for what we're doing, and, we've got that evidence that we are making contact and trying to, catch up with those kids that we're concerned about, or we haven't heard from, or we haven't seen. And even the ones that we have, to just check in, because the kids might say, oh, I'm fine. And the parents, we need to go, how is it really going? Is it fine? How are you going as a parent? How is this going for you? Trying to manage it as well. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
And even vice versa, if you're only hearing from the parent and they're saying, no, the kid can't come to the phone or something like that, because, kids will blurt out, they're just purely honest and will say exactly what's going on at home. That could be the case as well. With regards to the kids that have take-home packs, because we've still been doing both. We've still been sending stuff home, even though they've got the opportunity to be online, because some of that stuff still needs to be on paper anyway. How are you guys going about receiving that back? So let's say that they can't take a photo and upload it to Google Classroom or Dojo or Seesaw or whatever it is that you're using. How is that coming back? I've seen schools doing some tubs left outside and they've got cleaning procedures to do that. But I'm curious to know, what's the feedback like? What's the turnaround? So for you, Aaron, how does that work?
So the last term we had sort of 2 weeks of remote learning, and so we didn't really have too many expectations set. We did have parents that were proactive and were dropping the completed work back for the teacher to look at. However, we did have most of them that were, like you said, taking a photo and sending it on Dojo or things like that. But as we get into term 2 and this being sort of a longer extended period throughout the term, we will have some chats about trying to put in some procedures so that we kind of, I guess, want to set a little bit of an expectation is this is what we'd like to see each week. And here are the ways you can do it, whether it is, like you said, pop it in our mailbox out the front of the school and we'll collect it. But we did have, some parents that say we're returning it on Friday. And then parents that were returning, say, bits and pieces throughout the week by sending in photos or email and things like that. So, we haven't had a lot of consistency around that, but I think going into this term, we'll sort of set up a bit more structure and clearer guidelines about this is what we're sort of expecting, rather than we were sort of just 2 weeks and we're like, okay, let's just manage getting the learning out there. Now we can sort of fine tune that.
And I think as we go into that as well, our teacher brains go to, there's too many different ways this is happening, but we still need to remember it's got to be what suits the families the best. If it means us doing it 3 different ways by having take-home packs and having online and doing phone calls or emails or something, it's still got to be about supporting the kids and supporting the parents, because we don't want to create a situation that's even more stressful for them at home. Yes, it makes more work for us at the moment, but that's kind of the way it is at the moment. And I think the more we fight it, the harder we make it for ourselves as well. John, how about your younger kids? Have they been having some take-home packs that they've got to return?
Yeah, a lot of our students have got take-home packs made up, and they have parents have either come and collected it at the school, or we've done a drop-off for parents that can't make it. A lot of the resources have been reusable resources that parents can use again and again. And we've been getting them to upload pictures and videos of them doing the activities on Seesaw, so that way we can see. In regards to collecting the packs back, depending on, what's going to happen in the future. I mean, at the moment we're looking at rolling out some more packs because the ones that they've had for a couple of weeks. So we want to try and make sure the activities are updated to meet the student needs and goals that we've set for them. And we're currently in discussion about the next stage of that, whether we do collect it back or we let the parents keep the reusable ones, so that way they've got some resources that they can use at home for whenever a student might be away unwell in the future. They've got some resources there that they can use. And hats off to the teachers and the education support staff in our school. They've been working on that because it's a big job, and the teachers have worked really hard on that, which is great.
I think it's a true testament to seeing it's not just obviously our teachers working above and beyond. Our office staff have been going above and beyond, all of our learning support staff, languages, EALD, everyone hasn't stayed with, oh, that's not my role, I'm sorry, I don't do that. Everyone's just gone, what do you need me to do? What do we all need to do? And that's been, a true testament to just how awesome educators are and the things that we can do when stuff needs to get done. We just all get in and do it. And I know there's teachers that have been at home, trying to create stuff, trying to learn, doing all of this online PL, staying up till midnight. If they were like me, they were trying to help their own kids learn. And then when they went to bed, I was up doing stuff and staying up to get it done, because we were trying to just ride that choo-choo train to holidays when we could eventually sleep. And that what we have Good Friday. So that Thursday I came home. And I'm usually a night owl. I'm normally up to 11:30, midnight or whatever. And I was in bed asleep at 9 o'clock, and I didn't wake up until 8 o'clock the next day. I don't think I've slept that much since I had hangovers and being 18 and out and drinking. That was just insane to know I was that exhausted that I slept for that long. And that's what teachers just keep doing.
And even the students, even the students being able to master, for some of these ones, being able to take photos and use a lot of the online applications like Seesaw and all the other ones like Class Dojo. I'm sure the kids being able to use that as well has been, credit to them. They're really resilient, especially in the setting that I'm working in at the moment, which with special education. It's been fantastic just seeing some of these kids really show that, they can do amazing things. So hats off.
It shows you how capable they are when we give them the tools. As soon as we give them the tools and the opportunity, kids always blow our minds. That's why we do this. They're always proving everyone else wrong. They say kids can't do that. Kids can absolutely do this stuff. When I ran, in the weeks leading up to the holidays, in week 10, I ran 2 Google test classes so that we could see what issues we would come up with. And then in week 11, all of our stage 3 went onto Google Classroom, and that was like our next test run to see what was coming up. So all the issues that I had, I purposely picked kids with siblings that only had one device, so they would share and we'd see how that all go about. And one family has a Year 1 student, Year 2 student, and a Year 5 student. And the Year 1 student was the standout. She was the one in the comments saying, no, you find it down in the post below, or go up to this section and this is how you do it. And she was teaching them all how it had to be done. And they were all so engaged in the comments, in the feedback sections. And I was giving them really flimsy feedback too. It was very tokenistic. Great work, thanks for trying, just because I was just trying to get through it and do PL and everything. And they were phenomenal. And one of the best things that came out from it, which is very similar to my son. So those of you who are new watching tonight, my son is on the autism spectrum. What we found is that he benefits from the fact that he can pace himself. So the work that's set, he can pick which order it goes in. There's no clock. There's no competing with other kids in the class. There's none of that extra noise. There's other things, those interruptions. Oh my God, I forgot library's changed this week. We've got to go to library. He's really benefited from that perspective. And one of the students that I had, the Year 5 one, the older one, he really benefited from the fact that he was just focusing on his own work. Feedback I was giving was right to him with his name. And that was such a positive to come out of that I could then feed back into all of the other teachers going, no, there's some great things to be had from this, focus on those things. Don't worry about the barrier moments. I'm going to go down to some of the questions that came in, and I can see in our notes we've started putting some answers in there. So this was a question that came through from Facebook, which was, how do we give grades to students when we don't know the extent of support they are receiving? For example, how much of it is actually being independently completed? So in New South Wales, I don't know if everyone has seen, but it looks like, I'm not saying this is confirmed, it looks like we won't be doing A to E reporting. As in those grades. Now, I'm very sure that's going to be different for Year 12 or those other kids that are completing those specialist courses. So don't hold me to that. But this is the information that's come out of the live stream that we have with our leaders, is that we won't be doing A to E reporting. It'll probably be more of a comment in regards to how they're participating in remote learning. So EJ, have you heard any more on that for secondary?
No, we haven't had any directive at this time on that. But yes, certainly Year 12 and Year 11 will have to receive something. They can't just have a comment. It won't work.
Yeah, I know the discussion was they'll probably receive like averages from what they've already had so far in their studies. Does that work well for you if you just give them an average?
No, assessment tasks are at the discretion of the principal. So, and ours were already set and already in motion, so I don't think we'll be changing our assessment tasks at all for Year 11 to 12.
Okay.
They will receive the normal marks that go towards their HSC.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Now, Stephen, you had an answer for that, or response for that. Can you go into yours in detail?
I don't remember what I wrote, but I can.
You wrote on there. I can tell you what you wrote. You wrote, we give them grades. What is beyond our control remains beyond our control for ATAR courses. There's a sheet for students to sign to state that their work is their own.
Yeah, so in Victoria, we're still going to follow through on our VCE, but it just, we ask the students to sign at the end of the work that they've done, to sign to say that basically they didn't cheat. And then I think we all just agree that, maybe they didn't, maybe they did. If they did, it probably took them longer, like you can imagine if you're sitting there writing work that you haven't really thought about and you're Googling it, it'd take a lot longer than if you actually knew it in the first place. So pretty much, the Victoria's approach is pretty much bend but not break. So they'll still get something. And then when they return to school, we'll just kind of validate the marks that they've got and make sure that they can actually do what they did at home in class in the real, under supervision, as opposed to with Google open, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So for New South Wales, I'm assuming that will come out in more detail because it was only mentioned briefly when I think a principal asked that question during the live stream. So now that it's been asked, hopefully we'll actually get some clear direction. So don't go back to your principals and say, Beck West said we're not doing reports this way.
Beck, it was, I don't know if people have looked at the guidelines document that came out, which was in a email from Mark Scott to all staff. It did have a little paragraph about reporting, and it kind of alluded to what you said, that parents will get commentary feedback. It didn't specifically state anything about grades. It was a very short paragraph, and it was sort of very non-descriptive and non-direct, but it did sort of basically say that parents will be given a commentary of their students' participation in remote learning. But it did say that it could be in various forms as well. So it did mention phone calls and emails and things like that. So I think we need to watch this space and see kind of what happens in New South Wales as we move forward.
I'm assuming they're wording it that way so that it still goes down to that school choice about how they present things, because I know that NSW interpretation about what a report comment looks like can vary from school to school. It can be those cut and paste comments or ticker boxes, as long as we're reporting back in some fashion or having that really big general comment as well. So I wouldn't be stressing about that point. I know this is the time of the year that we normally go, it's report mode time, let's get into it, but really that's not the biggest thing for us at the moment, that reporting back. I do agree though that for those higher grade subjects though, they're going to need to have something to help them move into those next pathways, whether it's the job force or future studies. There will need to be something for them, because we don't want them to miss out on the opportunity to get into those courses if that's what they need to get into those courses. And again, I'm probably assuming that's a more watch your space moment. Our lovely friend Alice from Thinking Pathways, if you haven't seen Alice Viggers online, she has a Facebook page, Thinking Pathways, which is also a website, I believe, and she shares amazing stuff. And I'm going to take the opportunity to congratulate her on becoming assistant principal in the public system at Tumut Public School. So if she's watching, I don't know if she is, but congratulations. Hopefully she's just settling into her new home. She sent through a barrage of questions. The first one was, how do we ensure the learning we are providing is authentic and promotes thinking over just work? And I love the fact that she's gone to this, because she's so focused on making sure that learning is authentic in any capacity, and that's one of her focuses. Stephen, I don't know if you know that you wrote an answer to that one.
Let me have a go, and you tell me how close I am to what I said.
Okay.
I would say, to me, the difficulty with remote learning, well, there's probably a couple, but collaboration is one of the main ones, and that's how I would focus on getting them to actually authentically understand what they're thinking, as well as just doing the work, because it's easy to sit there and write and type something, but as soon as you're sitting in front of a group of your peers, it becomes pretty plain who's actually worked it out and who's actually thought it through and who hasn't. But that's the hard part, to do collaboration in an online teaching format. Wonder if anyone else has got any other ideas on that.
I'm curious, John, because you've been online and you've got the paper and everything. So how, and this is not to judge what you're sending out there, obviously, as we move forward to, well, as you have already started in term 2, how do you know that what you're giving them is, stuff that's actually going to benefit their learning and not just be busy work?
Well, we're focusing a lot more on the hands-on sort of independent skills. So we've been really trying to come up with some activities that can get them active, get them out, especially in our older years. We've got our horticulture sort of program and our Duke of Edinburgh stuff that we're really trying to do. So we're trying to make sure that activities can be relate to their programs that they've got happening. In the junior years and the middle years, we've been really focusing on giving them some, the activities that they're doing relate to what they need to focus on, and whether it be students that need to be able to count to 5. So we'll get them to count different objects. We'll ask them to post pictures of them actually physically counting these objects. And the explicit instruction's been really big, especially with trying to make sure that they what we're teaching them, we're giving them the whole the explicit instruction and how to do it. That's one of the big things, especially with online. Instead of just putting up a task going, go ahead and do it, you actually got to teach them how to do that.
I think a good way around this as well too is we often talk about some of those areas that don't really get covered in depth as much. And the big ones I think are like sort of objective D and E in English, when we're really getting the kids to reflect on their learning and how to provide feedback to each other. I think a lot of times we're ticking that box saying kids are engaging in feedback just because they're feeding back to us. They're not actually feeding back to each other necessarily all the time. And this is probably one of the best opportunities to do that, because if it's in an online platform or something like that and you're sharing it, they've got that chance to collaborate and to do things together on there, and it doesn't have to be done right there on the spot. They can really sit back and think about it, and you can send those probing questions where they could spend all week long reflecting on one particular thing if they want to. So and that's something that my kids have been doing too, is that they're able to reflect on that, and if they want to go back into it, they literally just jump. I'm pointing here, sorry, because my kids often work at the dining table behind me. They can jump onto the laptop and look at it again. So my daughter was learning about the Sumatran tiger. So even though that particular task is done, she knows it's there and she can go back into it anytime she wants with the laptop. It's not a book sitting in the tray at school that she's got to try and think or wait till she gets back to school to learn about. Like really being able to soak that stuff in and reflect on it. And that's some of the authentic learning that, you know, is a great opportunity for us to focus on. I'm going to move down to the next question now, which is how do we use this time to engage parents, carers in meaningful and rich discussions about their child's learning? And I think this is obviously not too hard for those parents we know that are engaging, but how do we get those conversations going if we can't always get them? So EJ said they were told to, you know, back off for a little bit because it was a bit too heavy and too much. So Aaron, how did you find it with your parents in sort of those last few weeks leading up to the end of term?
We had like quite a good amount of parent engagement actually coming from the parents. So parents asking how they're going, are they doing this right, is it working? And even parents that I probably heard more from in those 2 weeks than I'd heard from any other time. You know, so we also sort of set up a thing where we wanted every parent, so the expectation around every family gets contact once during the week. So sort of having those boundaries where you know, we're setting up a clear structure. Everyone's going to get some form of contact. Obviously the priority is those ones that we're not seeing, but really I guess having it sort of on the parents about how is it going, you give us the feedback of how you're finding it, because, you know, trying to understand that we've got parents that are working from home, they've got multiple kids that are sharing a device, and also sometimes telling the parents that it's okay, you don't need to be a teacher, you're just there to support their learning as best as you can. And having some of those conversations with parents where I said, you know, my daughter's throwing books at me, and we just say, listen, take a break, and that's fine, just do what you can do. But yeah, we sort of put in some structure around, you know, trying to make sure every family gets contact throughout the week. But like I said, we had a lot of parents that I guess they want to know that they're doing the right thing. So I had some parents that were contacting me daily, like, is this okay? Have they done the right thing? What do you want to see more of tomorrow? Even some parents that I use in my classroom like a feedback system, 2 glows and a grow. So I got a kid submitting his work and his dad had given him 2 glows and a grow on everything that he'd done. So some parents that really want to engage in, you know, making sure that they're doing the right thing for their kids, because I think, you know, they realize that this time still matters and they don't want to waste it, and they want to do the best that they can.
And I've seen in the comments, it's fed back somewhere though, it's seen in the comments here some people saying that they actually had the highest level of community engagement in those last few weeks than they've ever had. And I experienced that as well. So we had a ton of parents suddenly jumping on and liking or following the school Facebook page and commenting, and then sending us, we were getting the inbox flooded with pictures of the kids learning at home, which was great, because some of those families too are the ones that we wanted to keep an eye on and make sure that they were doing okay with the new situation. And that I made sure I was sharing that with all of our staff too, because, you know, we miss our kids. It's weird walking around the school and seeing empty classrooms and the playground empty, or, you know, there's not litter everywhere, which is different for our school setting. The crows have had nothing to eat out of the bins in my school. So our teachers need that comfort and assurance to know that their kids are okay. And there are some parents sending those messages through direct to the teacher, either via email or Google Classroom. And isn't that a weird culture shift as well? So you guys for secondary, I think it's a bit more normal for you guys to receive emails from your kids, whereas our kids are like, is it okay? Am I allowed to send an email to the teacher? I actually know what the teacher's first name is. I know your real name, they say, because they know your full name now and they can email you. And it's a little bit like, crossing to the dark side and doing something naughty by emailing the teacher, when actually that's what we want. We want them to communicate, to be able to do that. So that's great to see parents engaging when normally they wouldn't. I'm going to move down now because I've realized we've gone over that 1 hour. I told you guys it would go longer than I thought. These ones were sent to EJ. So the first one was, how do you keep your sanity while you can't really escape work since it's now at home with you? So yeah, I don't even have an office I can go into. Like I said, I'm here with the fish and the dining table and my fridge behind me. My hubby is playing Xbox as we speak with his headphones on, and the kids are in the bedroom literally over there. So when we work, I've got the toddler pulls up the stool next to me and he says, can we draw? And then I have to have this insane stack of paper that sits here next to me so he can draw and scribble. And of course, he only uses one page for every bit of drawing, but he tells me what every single thing is. This is cypress, and this is, I don't even know what this is, and that's what we deal with all day long. And then I felt like an absolute cow the very first day I was working from home, and all he wanted was cuddles. Literally said, mama cuddles, mama cuddles. Mummy's working. And at the end of the day, I was just terrible and realized I couldn't function like that. I couldn't try and work like normal from home. Same as the kids. It had to be a reduced amount, paced out in a way that suited. So if I needed to stop and give him attention so that he would eventually go away and sit on the digital babysitter and watch Pokio or something, then I would be able to get some other stuff done, or I would just wait and do it when the kids go to bed. It's not a great working environment to do it that way. I don't have the best tables or chairs, but it's what I've got to deal with. And I'm not going to let all of those barriers be the thing that stress me out. I'm just working in what I can work with. So, EJ, that question came to you. How do you keep your sanity while you get to visit the beach?
Well, that's part of it. I think, first of all, I think it's important to give yourself some grace. This is a crazy time with massive changes for all of us. And I think that having a few boundaries in place are really good, like having a knock-off time, because this is a job normally when you could just keep going 24/7 and still not be finished everything you want to do. But have a definite knock-off time, I think is really important. And have a physical determiner between spaces. Like, I'm like you, Beck, I'm working in my dining room because I help my at the same time he sits next to me. So at a certain time, I close the laptop, pack everything up and move it aside. So then it's fun time, in that space. I think those little things make a big difference. I also thought about just moving your body too, because the new thing is being stuck to the laptop for so long. So you got to stay sane by thinking about your whole self as a human being and making sure that you get up and do those stretches, because it's something that you can just get hyper-focused on and uber engaged in and just delve deep into that laptop. But you need to have break times and walk away from it and move your body, and that's the only way you're going to stay sane. I also told my students I'm not going to respond to your messages outside of school hours because I've got a family that I need support. And so I've got kids messaging me at 2 a.m. and stuff like that, but I'm not responding to them until,
notifications off.
Yeah. And I won't respond unless it's between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. And I told them that. So boundaries are really important.
And that was part of the conversation that came up with my exec today about making sure teachers can have their RFF, so to speak. And I said that just might mean that on one particular day, they've got a message on Google Classroom that says between the hours of 1 and 3 o'clock today, I can't provide feedback or mark any of your work. No different than if you had to sit down and do a live stream. If you had to do that, you say between 1 and 2, I'm not available for questions. Feel free to put it in the comments and I will come back to it and I will definitely answer it for you, but I can't answer it within the next, 2 minutes. And it kind of allays any of that anxiety that might come with, Mrs. West hasn't replied to my message yet or something like that. That's well within our scope that we can do that. This is the best part about having all of that control and choice over how we do this, is that we can set those different parameters depending on our school, depending on your own classes, depending on that, because you might even do that differently with the different students that you've got in those different groups. The other question behind this one was, how are you ensuring less enthused students aren't falling behind? I think I'll go to John on this one. Have you noticed already those kids not keeping up that you need to do something different with?
Yeah, with discussions with parents, we have noticed that there have been some students that have been reluctant to learn. So some of the things that the teachers have been doing in our team have been really just come out with some tips and ideas for parents to help get them engaged, whether it be doing a reward system where they do 10 minutes of work, 5 minutes of recreational time that they would like to do other things in. And it's also about trying to make the activities as engaging as possible. We put up a variety of activities where students are doing a lot of incidental learning. And whether that be that some students are more hands-on, so we might get them to build a tower and measure that with blocks. If they're up to being able to use a ruler, that's great as well. So we've been really trying to focus on a lot of activities that will suit them and things that they would be engaged in. But a lot of it's been that communication with parents in my setting, just being able to help them get their students to focus on doing at least half the amount of work if we can, because at least half is better than none. And anything else is a bonus for some of these students, which has been fantastic, because we have noticed that most of our students are engaged, and the ones that haven't been as engaged, we've just been really focusing on providing the parents some tips and strategies to help their child learn.
Question following on that was, how much live content do you engage in? Our school hasn't started doing live content yet. We've asked our teachers to pre-record everything, and that comes under the whole, we're really not sure about child safety being live online, timetabling if families are sharing devices, how do you get them all online, internet connectivity, all those sorts of issues. So have you been doing live streams, John, and then Stephen? What have you guys been doing?
Well, I know we haven't been doing a lot of live stream. We've been doing a lot of pre-recorded, so that way students can do it at their own pace. Because in our setting, that some students might find that too high-paced. Some might find it very overwhelming. So we have done just the recordings, and we are looking at possibly doing some live activities, whether it be just having that chat with kids in their classroom, not so much focusing on learning at the start, but just focusing on building that connections, because some parents are quite concerned about that disconnect from school and their friends and their peers. So trying to look at possibly down the track, just depending on how we go at the moment, doing that in that setting. But yeah, I'd like to know what Steve's been doing in the high school setting.
I think, yeah, the word you use, connection, is probably key, because it's just, yeah, we use it mostly to connect, or me personally, I minimize the amount I use it, just because I don't think teaching via live stream is necessarily that useful. Like having 25 kids sitting there in silence, doing nothing, not being able to do any work while they listen to me talk. As much as I like to talk, I'd rather than have a video. They can pause it, they can go back, they can come in, they can do all those things. So I've only done like maybe 5 so far. I've probably had 20 or 30 lessons. So I keep it right to the minimum. And when I do, it's pretty clear that like I'm just there to be like, how are you guys doing? You know, little fun activities like what'd you have for breakfast? If you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, just like small little connection things, because it's not for me to hear what they want to say, but it's for them to hear from each other and get that connection of, we're in class, these are our mates, these are the kids that we're used to seeing every day, and just to get a little bit of insight into their life. So I don't use it to teach, but I do use it to connect, I guess.
FYI, the answer is pizza. That is what you would eat for the rest of your life. You all know it.
Okay. You talk about this. You got to specify what pizza. Then you're safe. What kind of pizza are we talking?
No, all pizza is good.
I'm with Beck. Any pizza is fine.
Yeah, even cold the next morning. It's all good. It's fine. That's what you pick for the rest of your life.
I was going to say exactly what Steve was saying. So I know I mentioned earlier we do like a live chat every day, but it is purely for connection. So that's not all of our school. It's just sort of my stage. Stage 2, we've done them every day for 30 minutes. I guess as a little bit of a trial to see how it works. This term we're moving into every class across the school will be doing sort of that live chat option. And we've sort of made up a whole school timetable around different grades going at different times. For that instance, Beck, where you said kids sharing devices, so we don't have 2 kids that need to be on in different grades at the same time. So when we've sort of separated them by at least 30 minutes to try and make it manageable, but we're leaving it up to teachers in regards to, my stage, we're choosing to do it every day, but we'd like every class to do it at least once a week. Just like Steve said, just for connection. So like with my kids, we sort of have a thing each day. Like, so we had a crazy hat day, and then one day we had a disco, and then one day we all told a joke, or we've done a thing called Rock Club where you paint a rock and you show everyone your rock that you painted. Just fun things that we don't normally do, but it's just all about having moments where they can connect and just have a good time online for 30 minutes. We don't teach online because, like you said, I don't really see the benefit of it either. What they really need, what people really need right now is connection. And you can even see some of the parents going, "Oh, what's that kid wearing?" Or what's this? What's Mr. Johnston's hat today? The other thing that happens every day is I have a bit of a thing with my kids where I wear crazy socks every day, and literally every day on our chat, the first thing they want to know is, "Mr. Johnston, what are your socks?" So then I have to bend in all weird ways to get my leg up to the camera to show them, this is my socks for today.
You got to get your cat like a cat with a leg in the air, like get the leg up. I love it. I want to see you guys, Stephen, especially with your older ones. I want to see like scissors, paper, rock, and then just knock them out as they all don't beat you. So they've got to beat you every time, and then see who's left with a rock off competition at the end. I want to see that and see how you go.
I am stealing that idea. That is genius.
Yeah, all right, kids, you're free from work until you can beat me. I like that. What's that mean?
And yeah, you have to do that one live. You can't do that pre-recorded. See. No. So I'll just keep playing it and then beating you every single time. I think there was one more. Oh, is there anything specifically you've tried that hasn't worked well? So across the board, EJ, is anything specifically you've done that's just been a failure? Because we can all celebrate our failures too.
Yeah, it links in with the previous question. It was live lessons. I was doing a live lesson every lesson. So one day I had 4 periods in a row, and this was when we weren't working from home yet. We were still at school, but most of the students had gone home. And I did a live lessons for 4 lessons in a row, and I just went mental. I couldn't. And I went back into the staff room and I said, I don't think I can do this. And they said, you don't have to do one every lesson. And I realised you don't, because I agree with the others. It's best for Q&A, for a check-in, for there's just the connection, but the actual teaching side, it's there are nuances and everything. My guys were turning their cameras off too. So there are nuances in teaching that you read from the other person or the people in your classroom, their facial expression, the little sounds they make, everything that you can't pick up on a live lesson anyway. So yeah, I'm moving to pre-recorded and typey.
And it says a lot too, because at my particular school we have the itinerant team who work with vision impaired, so that whole idea that we need to see the other person to read from them doesn't apply to them because their kids can't see them anyway. So that whole different perspective of like, I know it's our habit that we need to be able to see those kids to read from those things, but it just it might heighten our other senses to be able to do those things. What about you, John? Is there anything that you've tried that just hasn't worked?
I don't think so. I think there's things that we can do better. And what we've looked at is a lot of things are evolving, whether it be more detailed instructions for parents, so that way they don't feel like they don't feel like they're not teaching it the way that we would necessarily do so. And I think definitely just coming up with a lot more structure for the students that we do have coming in, because I know guy down here, the James Molina, has said that, you know, what content's being done in the classroom will be what the students are doing remotely. In our setting, I think having more structures in place with additional tasks to help our students' engagement for the day is something that we can do, because we might plan out activities that we think will last the necessary guidelines that we've set in place, which is at least 2 hours of total work plus 1 hour of other activities. It's some of the kids are getting it done in 10 minutes, and then we're coming up with more tasks to keep them engaged. So I think having more structures in place can definitely help support those kids on site. But overall, I think everything's been going great. Our students have been completing the tasks, and some teachers are saying they're seeing more work done from the kids remotely than what they've actually been able to do in the classroom, which has been a credit to these kids wanting to learn, and it's been amazing. So I think there's things that we can do better. I don't necessarily think there has been a failure, but yeah, it's been great.
That's good. We're going to get to some of the questions that have come through the chat in a second. So Stephen, I'll get to you, and then we'll go to Aaron. Any failures that you want to share with us?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in terms of the teaching, it's not, for me anyway, it hasn't been too dissimilar to, like, often if I'm out of school at a union meeting or something like that, I'll set a video for my kids and I'll respond to emails and type into chat. So that's what I normally did when I wasn't at school, and so I'm just doing almost exactly the same thing. In terms of things that didn't work, just like setting boundaries. Basically, a nice shout out to EJ. It was lunchtime a couple of days ago, and I was watching a video of hers came up about, you know, teaching remotely, and I was like, as if I need to know about that. This remote teaching's easy. As I was watching a video, making lunch and responding to kids' emails with the other hand, you know. And then I was sort of listening. I'm thinking, yeah, okay, some of this stuff is a good idea. So now I actually take a lunch break. I cook my lunch. I go for a bit of a walk. You know, I follow all the steps properly rather than watching a video whilst doing those things, or, you know, doing student work. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm at emailing in business hours like EJ. That's something for me to work towards. But yeah, I definitely have lunch breaks and all the normal breaks where I just leave the computer and I go and do what normal human beings should do. So shout out to EJ's Kafuple Land channel for that. Go and subscribe if you haven't. It's good stuff.
I watched that video today, and actually the one thing I took away from that too was stay hydrated. So if you haven't seen this video, it's on EJ's channel. And I'll share it out on Talkin Chalk as well. Yeah, but that point about staying hydrated, I'm really bad with that. I've been drinking tons and tons of cups of tea in my favorite mug, and by the end of the day, I haven't actually had a glass of water. And so that was definitely a good reminder from that one too. But yeah, truly, Mr. Colber, you're not multitasking very well if you're doing all of those things. It's never truly multitasking, is it? You're never actually focused on the one thing.
Just failing everything at once, yeah.
Aaron, did I get some failures out of you yet?
No, but they're pretty similar to everybody else's, to be honest. I mean, number one, I think the biggest failure for us was probably setting too much work and probably, you know, I guess maybe overwhelming our kids and parents with the amount of stuff that we wanted. I guess our sort of thought was, let's just try and give them lots to keep them busy, and then having to pull back and go, whoa, it's okay, you don't have to do everything. And so that's been something we've really sort of refined, is pulling it back and, like I said earlier, kind of going, okay, what's essential? Let's just go with that. And even, I know John was saying, like, trying to give kids a lot more choice in things. So we've sort of gone to, I guess, model with a lot of choice boards and things like that, rather than being very directive of you have to do this, to try and engage kids a little bit more, because I think some of our kids were sort of a bit put off by how much they were sort of expected to do. And then I guess for me too, I know, you know, EJ was talking before about giving yourself grace. I was, you know, going home so tired because I was literally on the computer from 8 till 4, go, wasn't having a lunch break and all of that. So now I'm doing, you know, what all of you guys have said of recess. I stop, I go away from my laptop, lunch, I go away from my laptop, and even, I guess, trying to do things that I don't normally get to do. So, you know, I'll sort of give myself a break and I'll go for a walk and I'll just check in with my team and have those chats that you don't get to have every other time, because I guess it's a little bit more flexible now. So just trying to be kinder to myself as well in all of this, and being okay with the fact that this isn't normal teaching and the expectations should and do change.
I like that. Be kind to yourself. Yes, everybody be kind to yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. All right, a couple of questions that have come through. One I noticed hilariously was, how are my nails in such good condition? Thank you for that. So I have had one break off. So the week before they closed down nail salons, I had this inkling. Now, for those of you that've spoken to me, my husband had all these inklings before they happened. We did a grocery shop before everything went crazy. He knew the world was coming to an end, doomsday. We've watched enough zombie movies to see the signs. So he was ready for it, which meant I was then getting all of that prep done, which is why my school was very much ahead and ready. But it also meant that I went to the nail salon before they shut down. These are like 5 weeks old guys. So they're all ready to pop off, and then I'm going to die. The other question I had come through was, what are my alpacas doing? So if anyone's ever seen the pictures of my alpacas at school, we have a farm. We have alpacas, chickens, and ducks. The alpacas go to a farm during the school holidays, so they just went early. So they're on a farm. One of our teachers' relatives has a huge farm, I don't know, somewhere south past Camden or something or other. I don't know explicitly where it is, but our mama packer is due to give birth any day now, and we're going to miss out on it. I wanted to live stream that from the school, and I'm not going to be able to. So
that's not a good live stream. Please don't do that.
Not close up, from a distance. Like, when you see the zoo, do you remember that time when the giraffe was giving birth and everyone was logging on for 2 hours to wait for that thing to fall out? It was great. That was great live streaming. My husband and I swear, stayed up past midnight to watch that happen. Worth every minute of it. I'm not going to be able to do that.
Bring us all back, and we'll do like a joint commentary. Okay, we're getting ready for the old.
I don't know. This is just my brain, but I don't know if you watch Bluey, but there is a great episode of Bluey where Dad pretends to give birth to a baby. So watch that, Becky. I might give you some ideas of how to reenact this. Watch Bluey. It is a good watch. That episode.
I think I'll just get some teachers to dress up in alpaca outfits and make them do it. Then I can just video, and we can do like a David Attenborough. Yes, David Attenborough, like commentary over the top. I always go to say David and then say Richard and then go back to David. And our chickens and ducks are at the chicken spa. That's where they go every holidays. And when we went to take them to this woman who always watches them, she was closed and not answering her phone for like a week straight. And we were all wondering which houses we were going to send the chickens and ducks home with. And she had closed because she had sold out. Everyone was going sustainable and starting to have chickens in their own homes. She must have made a buttload of money and just went, see you guys, I'm not even answering the phone for a week. Luckily, we got in contact with her, though, and they're all safe at that spot. Now, some of you guys have been tagging Mr. Colbar in some questions, and Mr. Jetsopia, thank you for coming on, Mr. Jetsopia. He's a follower of all of us, I think. And he's asked, do you think we can keep this momentum of change going, or is there a fear that once we can go back to the norm, we will fall into old routines? And automatically, I feel like the optimist in me says, no, this is going to change the way that we do education. This is going to change the face of education. We're going to change our systems. Everything will be awesome. And then the other part of me just goes, bah-bah. Everyone's just going to go back into old routines. So I don't know. Aaron, what do you think? You're muted, Aaron, I think.
I know, I forgot. Yeah. Got to remember the mute. I know, like, I honestly hope that this changes us and makes us better educators, and we don't just fall back into the old habits. But I think, we kind of need to make it authentic, I guess, in a way, so that we can carry it on, not in the full form that it is, but taking what's worked and even, talking to kids about what did you enjoy and how can we carry that forward. But I really hope a lot of the skills and the tools that teachers are now taking on, they'll continue to embrace and use post, COVID-19, when life is back to, whatever version of it is of how it was before. That is my hope. And I think it's a little bit of accountability and checking in and going, hey, you still doing that? Or, what's the new thing you're doing? Or how are you going to continue this? Or having those conversations with people about what have you gained from this that you could actually take forward with you, and, trying to set some goals and things around that.
Oh my gosh, there we go. Sorry, I was talking when not well muted as well. Stephen, what do you think?
Well, just before we jumped on, I've just finished writing an article that said that hopefully things could change. I think the key deciding factor though is how long we're stuck in a altered situation. So like if New South Wales is rushing straight back into school, maybe there won't be that much time for people to sort of stop and think, how can we do this differently? But I feel like if it comes to pass that Victoria stays in remote learning for the whole 11-week term, then there's a potential possibility that at least there's change within the teachers because they've learnt a different way, and then they might become a bit more flexible. My real hope is that teaching could become a slightly more flexible job in the sense, if you're off having kids, maybe you could still do one class of remote teaching and not turn up. Have a day off when you go to the doctors and maybe do a bit of this and allow us to kind of escape the rock solid nature of our timetables. But I'm always an optimist and might just be a pipe dream.
Hopefully enough of us optimists can just keep pushing the agenda. Those of us that have kind of been in the flipped learning sphere for a while and kind of been sharing it and saying, hey guys, this is pretty good. You want to try it? Now we're just going to be like, knock, knock, knock. Come on, let's do it. We did it before, we can do it again. And those models, we know every time I hear from a parent, because I'm in a lot of sort of special ed and special parents sort of forums and everything, every time they keep saying things like, my son is actually doing better learning from home and learning under these conditions. I'm thinking of homeschooling them. What do I do? I keep telling them, no, feed it back to the school, because that's the only way we're going to change the system. If they get that feedback that says my child is actually doing better in these conditions, and it might look at how we can modify. What about you, EJ? Optimist, pessimist? You think we can do it? Oh, where did she go? I think she dropped out for a second. I'll go to John.
Yeah, look, I certainly think I'm an optimist. I certainly think that this can change the way we teach. I think it offers more avenues for flipped learning. It really does push the boundaries for some teachers to get them out of that comfort zone that they're used to. And I think it just provides, especially for those students that do go overseas quite a bit, and it just provides them another way to be able to engage in their learning and still keep up with what's happening in the classroom. Because some of the things that does happen is that they go overseas, or they might go on a holiday for 4 weeks, and it's during school term, and they miss out on that quality learning.
What about you, Aaron?
Sorry, I keep forgetting to unmute myself. So, hey, I just actually had a thought. This might be off topic, but I was just thinking about, I hope one of the things that does come out of this is, like we talked about, I know for me, I've had a lot more parents sort of engage in, what's happening right now. And I hope that stays, because perhaps parents actually see what it takes to teach their children and to differentiate and to do all those things. Maybe, I guess, a whole world that parents didn't realize, and now they'll go, oh, wow, like what you do is amazing. And there'll be a lot more engagement in that when all of this is over. I hope that's one thing that stays, is that, like I said, that higher level of parent engagement. And I guess the messages that I get almost every day from parents, like, thank you so much for what you're doing. You guys are amazing. Appreciate all the support that you're giving our kids that we didn't get before, that I hope that stays. I think because it's really made a better relationship. We always talk about, partners in learning between school and home. And I think this whole situation has solidified that. And I hope that continues. I mean, that's probably, I guess, my biggest hope for all of this, is that quality of relationship and consistency between, what's happening at school and home.
And let's hope it stays right around the next time we go for a pay rise. Because we now have the title essential worker to work in our favour.
Sorry, that was kind of off topic, but it just bounced into my head and I needed to share it.
No, but isn't that part of changing the face of education though as well? It's not just about changing our pedagogy and what we do and how we approach things too. It's about changing that stigma that goes with how teachers operate and what we do. And the fact that people kind of say, oh yeah, you know, we know you're not just 9 to 3, but you know, you really are only 9 to 3 and you get 12 weeks holiday. You know, they're thinking it in the back of their mind. The only people that don't think it are friends and family of teachers. They know the difference. So even if it's about changing how we look in the media, how we're portrayed in the media, because we know at the moment there's that general consensus that we're being treated like babysitters, and whether or not people at higher levels are actually thinking like that. I personally know some of our leaders. Oh, EJ's back. I know our leaders and I know how passionate they are about the things that we do. And there's no way any of our leaders could have sat down and gone, this is the right decision for everyone and it will work for everyone. I would hate to be in their shoes at the moment. And it's such a hard decision. So I think we obviously can pave that path as long as we keep being the awesome people that we're being at the moment. So EJ, I'm not sure if you actually heard the question just about, do we think this future focused learning will continue, or are people just going to slip back into old routines? What do you think?
I think, yeah. I don't know if we can get forward into the future, but take all the good bits that we can.
Oh,
Sure if you can hear me or not.
Yeah, we could hear you. Just dropped in and out a little bit. So I think you were just saying that as long as we're taking the best bits out of it, we can definitely pave forward and continue forward. I think this is the last question that's come through to me, but if anyone's got more questions, chuck them into the comments right now and we'll get to them before we finish off. So our awesome Kylie has asked, what are your opinions on utilising our casual workforce, on-campus learners, learning remotely with us online at school with our casual teachers supervising? So from my context, we tried to continue to employ casuals right up to the end of term. So we wanted our teachers to really engage with the surplus of professional learning that was available, to be able to have those conversations, and then working on skeleton rosters, being from home and getting into a routine at home. So we tried to utilize our casuals as much as possible. We did have to do some cancellations for bookings because we were scheduled for a ton of PL, as you do sort of towards the end of term, and it just fills up around that time. And no one was going on PL and they wouldn't have anything to do. And obviously we had no idea how much of a kick our budget was going to get. So some of those things had to cancel, but our regulars, we tried to keep employed, and we're going to try and do that as much as we can. And I know, I'm not sure if it's from Federation or if it's from the department, have come out saying now that any casuals that worked for at least 10 days in term 1 are able to apply for a specific sort of income bracket, whatever that is. I'm not casual, obviously, so I didn't actually click into that and learn more about it. But I do know from our context, we're going to try and use casuals as much as possible. RFF teachers, LAST teachers, community languages teachers, sorry, they're not babysitters either. They have a job to do as well. They have a role to do as well, and we need to make sure that they're just as highly valued as every single one of our other teachers. So I don't want to pull them from those loads when we have casuals who need work and could be doing that. I think Stephen and John, maybe Stephen first, are you guys using casuals in any specific way?
Not very well, to be honest. Just because, I mean, I would like to say, the work that I've done with casual teachers, like I spoke at a conference for casual relief teachers, and just for the majority of the ones that I've interacted with, their IT skills aren't the best. And so we've found it very difficult to find CRTs that can do the kind of work that we're doing now. So very unfortunate in our system, but there would be a lot of CRTs lining up for job keeper or whatever you call it. I think that's a big problem with our profession, to be honest, that these teachers that are just as qualified and just as well trained as us are kind of lining up for job seekers, a really big problem. But that's kind of the reality where I'm at. I don't know, John, how's it where you're at?
Yeah, look, same lines of that you're going on. I don't think we are utilising the CRTs at the moment. I think because on-site learning, we've got a skeleton crew working, and but if our principal and leadership are all on the same page, that if we do need to, we will utilise them. We will use them because my heart goes out to them because it's a tough time for them, and but yeah, I mean we will not hesitate in bringing a CRT if we do need one.
How about you, EJ?
We were lucky enough to be able to utilise towards the end of last term quite a few of our regular casuals because we were working from home. Our principal was really great and flexible in that way, and yeah, they were really grateful for that work. Going forward, I'm not sure how that's going to work, but yeah, I saw the same thing that you were talking about, Beck, and I thought that was really good that the casuals were at least sort of being looked after in that sense.
Aaron, how about you?
Yeah, we, I guess at the end of the term, our principal sort of invested a lot in giving us planning days. So as stages, we were sort of off class. So we were utilising casuals a lot to cover classes for that. So we could have days, together to plan for term 2, which was a great benefit for us. I know, we had some teachers that were on our casual books and we had to sort of cancel them. So we tried to sort of make new opportunities to get them on, give them some work towards the end of the term because it is so hard for them. But it was good to see that, yeah, like you guys have said here in New South Wales, those teachers that worked, 10 days or more will be offered, opportunities a couple of days a week for the rest of the term, which is so good for them. I mean, my wife's a casual teacher. I know how tricky it is because sort of heading into a new term, it's like, what work will there be for me? And I know that for our school in particular, our boss is, if you are sick, you'll be covered no matter what, whether you are, whatever your role is. If you're sick, we will be replacing you rather than just covering you with people on board, because we want to keep people employed, because people have mortgages to pay and bills and all of that. So it's great that we've got sort of, a principal who's willing to do that.
That's good. I think we'll try and wrap up because I've realised, remember I said we'll go over time? It's been an hour and a half now, I think more. Kylie's asked another one, just said, how will teachers that are newer to tech online presences cope with the forced online presence? And this is something that I've had with teachers that straight up just don't want to be videoed. They don't want their face there, and regardless of whatever their reason is for it, whether they think they're not pretty enough or whether they feel stupid being on video, or they could just be flat out people that don't like to have their face shown or their picture taken or something like that. That's why part of the content that I've been sharing is how you can create content that doesn't show your face. I know a lot of teachers really want their face on there so that you can see it, and they're using those different systems to be able to record themselves and the content as well. So there's those options. I know that there are some concerns about some of our older students doing inappropriate things with screen grabs of their teachers' pictures and things like that as well. And I think I would just bring that back to the whole, you don't need to be seen to teach factor. Think of, like I said, those teachers that we've got that are working with, vision impaired kids where they can't see them. There's other ways that they can do that. And so I would say take up those opportunities. Do you guys randomly unmute if you want and have any suggestions for those teachers that are a bit concerned about going online?
Yeah, I did the same as you, Beck. So I ran some PL for our staff around different tools that they can use to record lessons that doesn't have their face. We have a lot of people that, number one, don't want to do live lessons. They're sort of willing to film, but like you said, they don't want their face to be the main feature. So I've been showing them some tools like Loom, not to be confused with Zoom, Loom, that they can, have a little camera, or if they want, they can have an avatar or have no picture of them, just their voice over, to try and, I guess, get them a bit willing to sort of, give it a go without that worry of their face being, plastered on the internet and people doing screen grabs and all of that stuff.
Yeah, For me, this might be surprising, but it's sort of like I haven't changed the way that I teach, so I wouldn't expect any of my colleagues or any of my other teachers to change the way they teach either. So, like, I've always made videos, so I've continued to make videos. I haven't actively promoted that to anyone at my school in this current time. It's like I've got a teacher who, like, he's a whiteboard wizard. He's got like 20 different colored pens, and he does essay meta language stuff in these 20 different colors. And so he's just brought a whiteboard home from school, and he's set it up, and he's going to film that. Like the filming or the videoing part is like not non-negotiable or anything. Like, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Do what you've always done. If you're a worksheet teacher, scan some worksheets, put them online, and go from there. Like, just do what you've always done. And if you can, try and connect with the kids. That's all I'd ask of my colleagues.
I think that's a good way to start too. Keep that familiarity till you get used to the new norm, and then maybe try and branch out, because as teachers we should always be learning to do new things and expand upon our own skills. So I would take that same approach with this as well. So like you, Stephen, like I'm used to using video and getting on and filming and that sort of a thing. So I don't want to make it look like, it's so easy, guys, you should just do it, and then totally negate the nervousness and anxiousness that come from those teachers. I want them to be able to sort of go, okay, I can try it. I can try something new. And some of those teachers have really taken that on board, which is great. EJ, John, any other suggestions for teachers that might be a bit unsure about going online?
I think we've offered a lot of how-to videos, how to film yourself using, whether it be PowerPoint or debut video capture, which is on our department laptops, and even just using the Seesaw recording app on it. However, I think the big thing is just to, for those ones that are kind of, I don't want to call them the laggers, but the ones that don't want to, that are really reluctant to do it, I think it's just showing the positives, like the benefits it has for those kids, especially in our setting where, we don't want them to lose that touch, connectedness to the classroom and the teacher and everything like that. And we just started off just really small, giving them that small little goal, whether it be just to do a hi, welcome to the day, and where you greet each child, and it just giving them little things to try and do, and then eventually build up. I think don't just throw them into the deep end, but just giving those small steps. And I think with that, a lot of our older teachers who weren't as confident have really started growing confident. And so I think it's just starting small, showing them the benefits and why we want to do it. Not just we want to make it look great for us as teachers, but just showing the benefits for those kids.
Yeah, not just doing it because it's the shiny thing to do.
Yeah.
It's doing it because it actually helps our kids. What about you, EJ?
Yeah, similar to what everybody else said, especially I don't know that now is the time for everybody to feel as though they have to do all the bells and whistles and try all the new things, because there is so much out there. There are lots of great websites and applications that can be used, but you need to connect with your students like you always have done, just in a different kind of a context. So I feel for those people. I mean, those of us who are used to using video, it's sort of not that big of a deal, but it can be very, very confronting for people. And I think it's great that there is professional development around that people are sharing their skills and stuff. But I would say to the ordinary teacher who feels confronted, you don't have to do it if you don't feel comfortable.
Key thing there, same for our kids. We don't want to put them into a level of discomfort. One thing I just thought of that I would add to it would be do it in teams. Any of you on Facebook, jump onto Bundanoon Public School. Their teachers have been sharing some unlisted videos of the teachers getting together and reading a story, like a children's picture book, but they're all dressed up in characters from the book or different things. So there's someone's dressed up like a lizard or a bat or a bird or something like that, and then they're reading it. So that can be shared out to the whole school, and teachers, if they wanted to, I'm assuming, could individually, make activities based on that. Or really, that's just a great level of connectedness for the kids to jump online and go, look at my teacher dressed up like a lizard or something, and watch them, tell out the story that way. And at least any teachers that are a little bit nervous could wear a mask. I'm sure the kids will recognize their hair or their wristwatch or something like that. That connected us to go, I know my teacher's dressed up in a costume, but they're on there and they're doing it together. So if you are a bit nervous, maybe get together with your team, your teacher neighbor or something like that, and do something together that might help ease the nerves a little bit. And, you know, do something a little bit silly, because really at the end of the day, the kids just love knowing that we're there, even if it's just seeing your hands. So the maths videos that I have on Clever Pickles, the kids would always go, I can see your rings, or I could see that you had the red nail polish on, or things like that. They knew, even down to like the whiteboard markers or the resources. So I'm constantly buying stuff from Kmart, and I had the gigantic playing cards from Kmart. They knew they were my cards from Kmart, and that I was manipulating the cards to show them how to play the game in the video. They recognize those things. So even if they're not physically seeing your face, just them knowing that you're there, or even hearing your voice, makes such a big difference as well. I've taken up so much of everyone's evening, so I think we might leave it there. I will share all of the links for EJ and Stephen and John and Aaron, so you guys can go along and follow all of the wonderful things that they have to share. The chat thread has been going off tonight, so I can't wait to go back through there and answer any questions. Big key message I want to leave everyone with tonight, though, is that we're all in very similar boats. None of you are on your own, and if anyone feels like they are on their own, and if you feel like you can't reach out to your supervisor, your teacher buddy, you know, reach out to any one of us online. All of us are getting questions constantly to our inboxes, and we always answer. It might not be straight away if we're putting the kids to bed, but we always answer. So EJ, have you got any final comments before we say goodbye to everyone tonight?
Yeah, I just want to commend all the teachers who are watching, because I know for us, especially in New South Wales, this basically happened overnight. We weren't given any time. We weren't given any professional development on this. And I just think educators are so amazing, and we've just shone in this time. People have been doing things that's outside their comfort zone. They've been doing whatever it takes to reach their students. And I just think I'm so proud at the moment to be a teacher. And if you're watching and you're a teacher, I'm proud of you and what you've done so far and will continue to do.
Stephen, how about you? Final comments.
Final comment with EJ. Yeah, if you're a teacher, remember all the good stuff you've done. If you're not happy with the way things have gone, remember who to vote for in line with that choice and that decision. And yeah, keep doing what you're always doing.
John, how about you?
Teachers are you're doing an amazing job, and also next time you speak to the kids, just say hi to them. I think the kids, they love to hear from you guys, and the parents as well. Don't lose that connection, because the connections are what matter. You're building that bond with them, and for however long we're taking this, just embrace it, because some of the bonds that you make now are vital for the future.
And Aaron.
Yep. Amazing teachers. You are amazing what you have pulled off in such a short amount of time. I think just, again, re-emphasizing what you said, Beck, is you're not alone. We are all in the same boat. We are all figuring this out as we go. So continue to ask questions and seek support, and keep sharing what you're doing, because I don't know what you're doing. You might not think it's a big deal, but somebody might see what you're doing and go, oh my God, that's exactly what I need. So share what you're doing. It's not bragging or saying how good am I, but it might be the help that somebody else needs. But yeah, keep asking for support. And I guess the thing I've been thinking about this week is I can't control what the government's rules are, what the government says, or how we're going to do things. It might not be the way I want it to be, but I can control my thoughts and my actions. And I'm just going to have a positive attitude and try and see the good in this whole situation, whatever it is, whatever's going on, try and find the positives and look for good in the current situation, whether you like it or not. We can't do anything about it, but we can just make the best of the situation we're in. And at the moment, I'm just going to use this time to build relationships with my kids, because that's what they need more than anything else.
That's right. Out of all of this, essentially, What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Let's take that approach so that we can make sure we come out of this bigger and better on the other side of it, because we know that, like you said, all of the sharing, I've never seen teachers sharing as much as they're sharing now, and we've all been given permission to do it. There's, you know, so many teachers now starting their own YouTube channels, even if it's all unlisted, they're all sharing with each other. And that's probably one of the best things that's come out of this. Some of those barriers and divisions have been pulled down where people can go, here's what I've got. If it works for you, use it, have it, go for it, and helping each other that way. So everyone who's in the comments, please say thank you to EJ, Stephen, John, Aaron. Thank you so much for giving up your evening. I hope you guys have an amazing time for the rest of the holidays. We all know EJ is going to have a better time being at the beach than the rest of us. And John and Stephen, good luck for the rest of term 2 for you guys, fully remote learning, as we decide whether we're remote or in classes or face-to-face as the term progressively continues.
And thank you for organising this and putting it together. It was really fun and really interesting. I'm sure people have learned a lot just by listening and participating tonight. So thank you, Beck.
That's great. And I learned something new as well, because Stephen taught me how to use Jitsi to do this. So I learned.
Thank you, Deb.
Excellent.
Thanks,
All right.
Beck.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to click off, and I'm hopefully going to find a way to save this video so it stays on YouTube for people to watch later.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us.